right, welcome back to the Who's Judging podcast. I'm your host, Connor, and today we are interviewing Sandra.
Hi.
And this is mainly going to be about her book, which is Vegan Marketing Success Stories. So, would you like to tell us a little more about your book?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. I know you don't normally have guests, but yeah. So this is the world's first vegan marketing book, and I'm really excited to be the author. So this all started last year, so 2021, around the time of my birthday. I usually go to an intuitive, and I ask, what do the spirit guides have to say to me this year? And she said, "You're going to write a book." So I went, what? I have written a book before, although last year I did not have an idea whatsoever for a book. And so, yeah, I actually went back to her about 2 months later and I went, what is this book supposed to be about? And she said, you're going to teach people how you do what you do. And by trade, I'm actually a content writer for
Uh,
vegan businesses. So I thought about
awesome.
teach people how to write. I'm like, no, there's absolutely no way I can do that. That's too hard.
Yeah, no.
Um, but I just kept thinking about, so my previous background prior to starting this business, I ran a public relations agency for over 10 years. So I do have a background in public relations. And since becoming vegan 4.5 years ago, I've always been interested in how vegan businesses market themselves, from, your huge Beyond Meats to all the way down to, your mom and pop food service here in town. So I thought about, okay, well, what about a book about how vegan businesses market themselves? So I Googled around the summer of last year. No book existed. The closest thing to it was Vegan Ventures, which Katrina Fox published back in 2016, I
Uh-huh.
believe. So her book is the first book about vegan business, like in the
Wow.
world. And so, of course, I read her book. It was so inspiring to me. And she did have a few chapters about marketing. So my idea was to take the few chapters she started with and flesh that out into an entire book.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and so yeah, I thought, well, my book will be the second vegan business book in the world. So there you go. Yeah.
That's it's amazing. And I read the book and it's really good. It goes really in depth and it will really help out.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And then, so expanding on when you went vegan, I saw you also cut out meat very early, like way earlier before that. So what was that journey
Yes.
like for you?
Yeah. So my vegan journey actually, yeah, I mean, it started many years ago at the end of 2000 when I watched Earthlings. So I knew eventually I wanted to be vegan. I just didn't know how to do it. And of course, we don't have all the resource. Well, back then
Yeah,
I
back
don't
then it
think we
wasn't.
have,
No.
we had all the resources that we do now. So I started out, yeah, just sort of a on a process of elimination. So I cut
Right.
out all meats except for chicken for the first year, because chicken was a huge part of my diet at the time.
Right.
And then I did, yeah. And then after that, I was like, all right, I'm ready. Let's take out chicken. And then I tried to actually like eat more seafood, but I've
Uh-huh.
never been a fan of seafood. It's just
No.
like so hard to cook. There's bones and everything. I'm just, yeah. And so technically I was pescatarian for a good chunk of that time, still
Uh-huh.
eating seafood and some dairy and eggs, but yeah, just never a huge fan. So my cooking routine was like vegan or vegetarian Monday to Friday, and then on weekends when I went out with my now husband,
Uh-huh.
I might eat, fish and chips or something like that, maybe some dairy and eggs. Yeah, so I was able to finally cut out seafood when we went on our honeymoon in New York City in 2017, and and we went to Iron Chef Morimoto's restaurant, and I had just the best seafood meal of my life. And I'm like, well, it's not going to get any better than this, so I'm going to leave on a high note, and that was it. So for a year after that, I was like, dairy was the only thing. I don't even think I was eating eggs anymore. Um, yeah, and then I found out I was sensitive to dairy after taking a food sensitivity test in the spring of 2018, because I've had this undiagnosed digestive condition for many, many years,
Oh, wow.
um, unrelated to my diet
Right.
transition. Yeah, yeah, so my naturopath was like, let's do a food sensitivity test. I found out I was sensitive to dairy, which many people of color are, I later learned. And then that was it. So I did a cleanse for 4 months, and then I was like, well, I guess I'm I can do a vegan diet. I've done it for 4 months now, and I've always wanted to live this lifestyle. So yeah, so spring 2018 was sort of the date that I count from.
That's awesome. So did the vegan diet help with the digestive at all? Like, did it help you with that?
Not immediately, but the funny thing is at the end, close to the end of 2018, I went to a free gut health workshop that was run
Uh-huh.
by a plant-based nutrition shop in town. They're no longer open, but they were running this workshop with a vegan naturopath and the manager of the store. She's vegan, a vegan nutritionist, and they were just covering, the different digestive conditions. And yeah, and she talked about hypochlorhydria, which is just a
Uh-huh.
fancy name for underactive stomach, and just
Right.
listed off all the symptoms. And I almost cried right there on the spot because I'm like, I think this is what I have.
Wow.
Yeah, and so after saying thank you so much, like I wasn't even going to come to this gut health workshop. I'm so glad I did. I think this is what I have. And she's like, here's the blog post that I've written about it, and the less animal products you eat, the better it is for this specific condition. And so I was already on the path
Right.
to veganism, and thanks to the pandemic, and not wearing my usual clothing that I would going out, I think that has helped as well, because I've learned just personally, like any sort of constriction around my chest or stomach area also aggravates the symptoms. So like the acid reflux that happens and the pain and the bloating. So yeah, just not having to like wear tight jeans or bras and things like that during the
Right.
pandemic, like that actually really helped. And yeah, since that time, I still keep a food journal and record all of my symptoms. Yeah, vomiting was actually one of the main symptoms as well. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and which I haven't done in 3 years. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
quite, yeah, quite happy that to learn that yeah, a vegan diet actually helps with this specific condition.
That's amazing. Going back, you said you watched Earthlings. I want to know what got you into watching that, because for a lot of us or a lot of people, it's really hard to watch those, like the
Mhm.
documentaries.
Yeah, and this is the documentary I tell everybody to start with if you're thinking about it, because it just covers so much ground. And I came upon it completely by accident. So I had left my first job out of university in the summer of 2007, and so my previous boss actually invited me to a screening of this documentary at the end of
Wow.
the year. That because her ex husband,
Hmm.
he's an ex husband now, is a filmmaker in town, and he, I guess, had seen the film at some point and really wanted to screen it again. So he
Uh-huh.
put on this screening at the University of British Columbia at the end of the year, and she invited me to it. She's just like, "Hey, come out. My husband's having the screening." I had no idea what the content of it was. I just came out just to see her,
Right.
and catch up. And yeah, I mean, within the first 10 minutes, you start seeing the graphic footage, and what's funny is I saw these university athletes. I don't know if they were basketball players or football players, but they were definitely wearing the university jackets that
Okay.
only athletes get. And I saw them walking out of the theater. They're just like, I didn't sign up for this. And they walked out. And I went, well, if these guys can't even like stomach this, like I'm going to sit down and go and watch the whole thing. And what's funny is my former boss didn't even like that was not the first time she had seen the movie, and she walked out of the theater too. She couldn't
Wow.
stomach it, so she went to the bar and and left me solo in the theater. So yeah, I watched the whole thing, and what was actually really powerful was that after the film screen, they had a Q&A with the filmmaker who had hosted the screening, and a woman from the Vancouver Humane Society, and somebody had asked, what is one thing we can do to help these animals? And she said, give up meat. So that
Right.
just that basic statement of like that's the most powerful thing you can do. That is what like really set me on this trajectory. If it wasn't for that, I don't know.
Right. It definitely sounds like an impactful event with having the filmmaker and everything there.
Well, not the filmmaker
Not
who
the
made the documentary.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah,
No worries.
he was just he's just
Promoting it.
promoting it. Yes, exactly. Thank you.
But with the Humane Society one too, that was a good touch to add her to that.
Yeah, and I know why he brought her along because obviously she's more involved in animal rights. And he's just this filmmaker. Like he I don't think he ever went vegan. Like he opened a restaurant here in town. It wasn't vegan. It was very plant friendly, but yeah, I don't think he and his I mean his ex-wife, my former boss are on the spectrum at all. So
Wow.
it's really funny how yeah, this couple just really changed the course of my life, without, I mean, hopefully, I would hope that they at least are aware of,
Right.
of their dietary choices.
Maybe made some non-absolute changes to their diet.
Yeah,
And so you had a PR firm, I believe?
that's right.
And so how hard was it to pick up clients after you made it more eco-friendly or conscious?
I would actually say it was easier because, yeah, the first few years I was running my business, it was under a different name. I didn't really have a focus in terms of the types of clients. I mean, I did wish that they were more fun to work with, but I wasn't really making any sort of marketing stance with that. But yeah, yeah. So while I was running that company, is sort of again, I had watched Earthlings, becoming more plant curious. I was also making more steps to try and live more eco friendly in my life, and so
Right.
yeah, it just became really obvious that I needed to work with clients that I personally believed in and whose values resonated with mine. And yeah, as luck would have it, I was driving home from like a motivational speaker event one day, and just the name Conscious PR came to me as I was driving. So I, checked if anybody was using the domain. Nobody was. Yeah, and so I actually rebranded my company at the time to Conscious Public Relations, and that really actually helped me, yeah, walk more in those circles of social impact and attract more clients that I resonated with a lot more.
Right. That's probably awesome. It made your job a lot easier and more fun, huh?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily more fun, but yeah, definitely helped me sleep better at night. And
Yeah.
I tell that, yeah, I mean, I feel very fortunate to with that business, yeah, have run a business that aligned with my values, and today, my focus is vegan businesses. So yeah, anytime you can marry your values with work, I think yeah, you're in a really fortunate spot because we spend so much time of our adult lives working. And so yeah, if you can inject your values into that, then yeah, your work is then helping to make the world a better place, I believe.
Right. And so going back to your book, in the first chapter of your book, you already discussed it, but I'm curious your opinion on whether you think it's better or worse to have vegan in the name of your company.
Yeah, and I think it's a subjective answer. So for some, yeah, vegan isn't going to be a part of their name, and it's more about the product, right? Like,
Right.
plant-based food product or whatever it may be. For others, it's worked in their favor. And I find that those folks who've got vegan in the name, they are more active and loud about the vegan they're
Movement.
more yeah, they're more activist, yeah, their messaging is a lot
Mhm.
more activist in that way. And yeah, and I've been on several podcasts now where I've been asked, how far along the vegan vein do you go in your messaging, and it really differs between companies. So yeah,
Right.
it's really up to them.
Yeah, I've seen a lot with the vegan in it, and I think you are right. They do push, the marketing or the advertising is a lot more vegan message like push. So I think that's good. And also the other big one I saw was like a vegan versus plant-based like labeling or marketing. There's a big debate on
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I wish plant-based was synonymous with vegan, ingredients at least, but it really is
Right.
not. Like there's at restaurants they consider that, vegetarian. So yeah, it's majority plants, but you still might have some dairy and egg in it. And that's really scary because
It really is.
dairy and eggs are like some of two of the top allergens, and then maybe nuts after that. But yeah, if you're not yeah, careful about looking at ingredients or if you're dining out at a restaurant, unclear about what's in the dish, yeah, you got to really ask and make sure because it's life and death for some people.
Yeah, and that's a very misleading term, plant-based is, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And that's the other thing I learned from your book is that the products that are labeled vegan, you said that they don't actually have to be free of egg and dairy
So I was probably
or
quoting
legally.
Heather Landex's book. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so she's sort of the foremost expert on this sort of stuff. Yeah, free from, like, that's really what you want to look for because um yeah, that says it's free from,
Right.
potentially animal products and all these allergens. And yeah, and that's why labeling is so important in marketing, especially when you have a um food product or you're in the food service industry. So yeah, I quote from her quite a bit in my book, just because her book is
Mhm.
is a brilliant resource for anybody in food service, vegan or not. So but yeah, I mean, in terms of the word vegan, there's no regulatory body that's checking in to see
Right.
if a company that has labeled the product vegan is truly vegan. And so unless you've gone through the um through a third party standard, yeah, there's actually no legal recourse.
It's
And I think
crazy.
recently in the news, I think maybe a few months ago, there was a woman who ate a product and she was allergic to dairy, but and maybe it wasn't intentional that the dairy was in the product, but maybe it
Right.
was made in the same facility
Yeah, one of
where
those.
dairy products are present, and so she passed away, and that's really scary. So anybody in food service, like, you just gotta um, be clear about what's in your food, and label accordingly.
Right, because that's scary. That's sad that someone passed away because of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then also, could you explain more on the I saw you said Meta removed the vegan ad targeting options?
Yes. So this this was something somebody told me in a
Mhm.
LinkedIn group at the start of 2021, and I thought that was really important to include in my book. The funny thing is, when I started doing social ads for my book, the veganism label is still actually there. So,
Okay.
so my book is a little bit misleading. It says it's not, and it says, yeah, you can still choose it for
Okay.
Instagram, but yeah, it is actually true. It's still up there on Facebook. So I don't know why they announced
Maybe
that it wasn't going to be there. It could just be like they flagged it for a short time.
right,
So maybe they're around the
temporarily.
time that, yeah, that person tried to use it and it didn't work for her, and then maybe they reversed it. So yeah, unfortunately, I included that in my book, and then later found, like, oh, like, it is still up here. You can
Well
still tag veganism in your ads. So yeah,
well, it still
good
happened at
news
least
for y'all.
temporarily.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
See, I think the most important or the coolest thing I found from your book was the vegan business tribe, because I had
Mm.
no idea they existed. And so, I mean, I saw they consisted of over 2,000 vegan businesses. And I believe you joined it or temporarily?
Yes, I did try out the network for about 2 months.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, had a great experience. It is more Europe focused.
Okay.
A lot of the members are out there in Europe, but yeah, it is open to anyone around the world who's vegan and who's got a business. Yeah, just such a great community. David and Lisa just know what they're doing. They've run many businesses both together and separately, I believe. So yeah, they really run a tight shop over there. And yeah, and David shared a great story for my book about
Right.
the tracking the customer journey. So they really do their due diligence in terms of, yeah, seeing how their customers learned about them and really nurturing the membership, the relationship with their members. Yeah, and they just do a great job of marketing overall.
Yeah, I saw you said they meet every new one on one or they Zoom call someone, right?
Yes, I don't know if they do anymore,
Or but they used to.
but they definitely used to in the first, yeah, year and a half. Especially when I joined, they did a one-on-one with me. Um, but yeah, yeah, they're just great at nurturing their community.
Right. So what were some of the benefits you saw while you were part of the group or benefits you saw for people that would join, while you were inside?
Yeah, so, again, I wasn't there for a too
Right.
long of a time, but, yeah, did the one-on-one with David and Lisa. I attended, one meetup, and got to meet I'm trying to remember, yeah, I'm pretty sure there were, like, over 50 members who joined that specific meetup, and so now they run twice a month now instead of once, just because there's so many people that join every month. I know that they have, like peer coaching circles. So that's
Right.
another event that they run every month. I'm not sure how many. And then there's all these resources that you can get in the like on their website when you log in as a member, several classes, workshops, master classes, that kind of thing. And then I believe they have a Slack workspace now. So that wasn't there when I joined, but that's yeah, that's a great way for members to stay in touch with each other and, bounce ideas, ask
Yeah.
questions. I find that Slack is really great for that.
And seems like a really good place to build networking that's vegan rather than just trying to build it out through a non-vegan source.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, their criteria is not only are you running a vegan business, but you have to be vegan yourself. So,
Right.
yeah, so everybody in the network is.
Right. And building off of building networks, that was kind of weird. What can you explain the importance of LinkedIn within business and building networks?
Yeah. I mean, LinkedIn was created for the purpose of building business relationships. So I liken it to Facebook. It's very similar to Facebook, but yeah, like that's the place where it's appropriate to have business conversations. So, whereas in Instagram, you never know if you're going to be talking to the right person. If you
Right.
DM the company, you're probably going to be talking to like their social media manager, right?
Right.
But if you want to reach the CEO or another person in their C-suite, LinkedIn is the better way to go. And I'm not going to say everybody's on there, but if you run a business, or even if you're a professional and you need and networking is part of your work, that's the place to be. And yeah, so definitely follow, connect with, and then use the DM. There's a whole bunch of other features that like I'm not even really oh, there's groups. Like they have newsletter functions now where you can
Wow.
set you can blast. I mean, everybody can do articles, but
Right.
then newsletter is basically just an article that comes out on a more regular basis, right? So now you
Of
can
course.
subscribe to newsletters in the same way that you would subscribe to a company's email list. So
Right.
yeah, I find LinkedIn is and it has done a good job of kind of like watching what other social platforms are doing, but then considering what is best for like the professional user. They did try out stories for I think a year and it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
So they removed it. And so I like that they kind of tested it out and then like, yeah, and then abandoned what doesn't work.
Right. Can can you tell us more about why it's important to give people an option to give you easy feedback anonymously? You mentioned the 1 to 10 theory in your book.
Yes, and I believe that's another quote from Heather Landex's book,
Wow.
which is that for every one person who either complains or even gives you, a great comment about your business, there's 9 other people who have an opinion and they're just not giving it to you. And
Right.
so the easier you can make it for people to give feedback, whether it's, at a restaurant, a comment card on the table, or, a QR code that leads to like a survey where you could sign up for an email list or you get a prize for, I don't know, entering.
Right.
Yeah, or even just like a contact form on a website or on a, semi-regular basis posting on social media and saying, "Hey, we want your feedback. Tell us what you
Right.
think about this or that." The more that you can do that and just make it open for customers and clients to give you their feedback, the more you'll get, yeah, you'll get that real time um sort of yeah, response that'll help you improve your business.
Right. And then with the tagline, can you explain how important it is for a good tagline when it comes to marketing efforts?
Yeah, so your tagline is sort of your calling card. As I know not a lot of businesses do commercials anymore,
Right.
but if you were going to create one for your business, it would be that last phrase that you leave people with, right? It's sort of that thing that you want um people to, yeah, to take away with. So my husband and I were just actually talking about the car commercial. I believe it's Mazda. I could be wrong, but at the end of the commercial, there's a child's voice that goes zoom zoom. and
Mhm.
he thought it was Hyundai. I was like, I think it's Mazda. But the point is, what whoever created that zoom zoom at the end is really catchy. And
It
so
is, yeah.
yeah, and so it's yeah, if you can create a tagline for your business, and this is like one of the very first things I suggest you do when you start out a business is create a tagline that kind of gives people an idea of what you do as a business, but then also helps you make it, yeah, helps you stand out and make it memorable when people are off scrolling and on to the next thing.
Right, it's something that lets them remember yours while they scroll to the next one.
Yeah.
Alright, then what are probably, let's say, the 3 most important things when it comes to marketing, do you think?
Oh
If you had to
gosh.
pick 3.
You know what? Because as you know, you've read my book, so you
Yes.
know that marketing is like a cocktail. Like your strategy is
It
going to
depends.
differ. Yeah, your strategy is going to be completely different from even your competitor. But what I would say is, I would actually say you need four things.
Okay.
These are the basics of marketing. And if you skip on to something else without having one of these basics, you know, you're going to have a harder time later on retaining your audience. So number one is a website. Like it surprises me how many small businesses start a business on Instagram only,
Right.
and it's scary because
Yep.
you never know when Instagram or Meta goes down for a day, that's your business. And so you
Right.
always need to have a website. Even if, you know, you've got the same company name as somebody else, just, you know, have a website that is your digital home. On your website, have a blog. And I know that sounds boring for a lot of people because, like, oh, who's going to read that? Well, it's not about just people reading your site. It's actually good for search engine optimization. So the more
Right.
keywords you can have in your blogs, so you can use a blog for news announcements. You can use it for transcripts of podcast interviews you've been on. You know, um, um, yeah, or just telling your story, right? But the more keywords you pump into your website, that's how Google finds you. That's how Google searchers find you. So number
Right.
two, have a blog. Number three, have an email list, because again, you never know, even if your website's under construction or a web,
Right.
you know, your social media goes down,
Anything could happen.
you need a way to contact your audience. And so have an email list and nurture that and make sure you're trying to constantly add people to that list. And number four, social media. So again, there's tons of platforms. I'm not going to say which ones you should be on because it's different for every business.
Right.
But at least I would suggest try and reserve your name on all the social platforms so that your
Right.
company name is yeah, so that you're taking your company name and somebody else with the same name does take it. And then from there, choose maybe two to start. Yeah, building your audience on, and you can always add more later. But those are the four basics that I suggest every business, you know, work on and make sure you have before you then layer on all the other types of marketing you can do, you know, advertising, etc.
Right. Because it's like you said also, even if Facebook or Instagram doesn't go down for a day, they could also just start losing their users or user engagement when you were talking about laying it all in one basket.
Yeah, and then you're always beholden to the algorithm. So every time it changes and they favor you know, reels instead of carousel posts or
Right.
whatever it may be, then you have to switch, and like you always have to be on top of that. And I've heard of like my client, they lost their account for no reason. They
Wow.
they couldn't even find out why they were shut down.
That's
And so they
crazy.
had to start new, right? And that's and so yeah, don't just have Instagram for your business. Definitely have a website.
Right. And for social media advertising or just social media presence in general, what do you think are some of the important things that are needed?
Gosh, yeah, we could talk for a whole hour
Of
about social
course.
media strategy, but I would say just yeah, share as much content as you can, like, you know, reasonably. A couple of the contributors to my book in that specific chapter or section talk about how documenting is really how they use social media. They show their audience behind the scenes, everything that's happening.
Right.
and whether you're using reels or stories, yeah, or just normal posts on Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook, share, because you never know, like, yeah, your audience isn't going to see every single post you do.
Right.
At best, maybe they're seeing one out of every 10 posts, and that's why the documenting is so important, so that yeah, you're making sure at least one of those 10 posts are getting out there. Like, if your frequency is 3 times a week, I'm sorry, but that's just not going to get you very far organically.
Right.
Yeah, I would say maybe aim for daily, if not 5 times a week. And then if you can do multiple times a day, even better.
So consistent presence is the most important, or one of the most important things.
Yeah, great point. Like, if you're doing 7 days a week and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm gonna go on a 2 week vacation and stop. Like,
Right.
yeah, like, people are going to stop paying attention to you because you haven't been active. So yeah, so I'd say the consistency is even more important than just like doing as much as you can.
Right. And then
That's
would
for
you
sure.
say engaging with your followers and the following is an important thing as well, like responding to comments or liking comments and stuff like
Oh,
that?
absolutely. Like, yeah, like, it shows that you care, and it shows that you're listening to what they have to say. And I find a lot of companies are not doing that.
Right. They
Like,
don't.
yeah, it's definitely a missed opportunity.
But there's definitely some good ones. Like I'm sure you know Nora Cooks.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm following, but I
Oh,
should I should
yeah.
now.
Yeah, she's one of the big ones, posts a lot of recipes. And I mean, I don't know how long she does it, but like the first 10 or 20 comments, like she'll respond to. Like they'll be like,
Mm,
"Oh, this I love this recipe." And she'll be like, "Thanks, I'm glad you like it," or whatever, and stuff like that.
yeah. Yeah, and that's what I try and do too. Yeah, same thing. Just to let people know that, yeah, you are listening and you're engaging. And it's actually good for the algorithm too. Like, it keeps you in touch with, keeps you visible to that person, because the platform knows that you're engaging back.
Right. And then building off that, can you expand on customer services relationship with marketing?
Yeah, so that section was really inspired by David at Vegan Business Tribe, because
Uh-huh.
I wasn't going to have a section on customer service. But even from my personal experience, trying to reach the right person to invite to contribute to this book, I
Right.
had to go through a lot of, like, hello, emails or info emails, and go to customer service. And I would say, like, 9 times, 8 times out of 10, I never reached the right person. There were
Wow.
very few that forwarded me on to, the marketing person that I was looking for. So that's hugely important. Yeah, I would say it's a huge part of marketing, because, yeah, if you're not responding to potential customers or clients and the questions that they have, then it's a missed opportunity to convert someone into a loyal customer. So yeah, it's hugely important.
And I think one of the more important things you said in the book was that it's important to align the pricing to overall competition and do everything you can do to keep like a vegan premium low.
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah, because I totally understand there's a lot of innovation happening, and that might mean premium ingredients
Right.
going into products. But yeah, if we want to compete with the animal ag, we have to keep pricing in mind. I mean, we're in a time of, like, inflation right now, right? A lot of people
Right.
aren't going out and buying expensive things. So yeah, pricing is definitely an important part of marketing.
Of course. And then the five W's and the H, the who you are, what you sell, when you started, where you are, why you exist, and how you can buy, how people can buy from you. Those are some of the most important things to have in your mission or on your website, correct?
Yeah, I would say they're the foundational parts of any messaging. So yeah, so definitely on your website, introducing who you are. If you're sending out a news release to media, that's definitely
Right.
important. Yeah, I talk about the 5 point landing page formula
Right.
in my book, and that's an important part of that as well. Yeah, or even any sort of announcement that you're making, ensure that, yeah, that you cover all those bases.
And of course, we can't cover everything in your book, but is there something we haven't talked about that you think is important to get out there on the episode?
Oh, I just wanted to say that, yeah, like this is a book not just for vegans.
Hmm.
If you're a business owner or marketer listening to this, it'll definitely, yeah, teach you how to create your own marketing strategy. The only difference with any other marketing book is that all of the examples and contributors are of vegan businesses, and so I'm, yeah, really proud to have had 47 contributors from around the world, of vegan businesses, and then another like 4 to 6 dozen examples that are in there. So you'll get a lot of
Right.
examples from what folks are doing right now around the world.
Right. I do think this book is important because it not only, as you said, doesn't just help vegan companies with marketing, it also could help anyone that's trying to go as a vegan company, like transition their company,
Yes.
help them with that as well.
Yeah, there's a section of that on that in chapter 7 that I'm really happy to have included too.
Right. And we went over the most important things you think for the marketing, but do you have any extra advice for any vegan startups or vegan companies all around when it comes to marketing?
I think yeah, as we talked about earlier, make sure you have those 4 basics, your website, your blog, social media, and email list. Those are the 4 basics I would suggest any business start with. And then you can always layer on top of that. And my book will give you all the ways that you can possibly
And
add to your marketing strategy.
then, of course, the most important thing so people can get all the information, where can people get a hold of a copy of your book, Vegan Marketing Success Stories?
Yes. So ebook is available anywhere online where ebooks are sold. The paperback you can get from Lulu, Vegan Supply, Rock Chalks in the UK, or you can get a signed copy from me if you just order directly from me. I only ship across North America though. And then the audiobook is available on Audible and iTunes. And to get all those links, you can just hop on my website with my name, sandranomoto.com.
Awesome. And we'll put that on here for you. We'll make sure it's easy to get people to your site.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes. And so thank you for, first of all, writing the book and everything you do with your firm. And thank you for hopping on and talking with me today.
Thanks so much, Connor. It was my pleasure being on the Who's Judging podcast.
Of course. I hope you have a good day.
You too.
And as always, who's judging? Not me.
Not me.